So my name is Jason Moss. I'm a business coach. I work with coaches and help coaches grow their businesses. And I'm 30, I'll be 32 this month. When I met Scott, I was super early stages of growing my business coaching business. And I'd been in the coaching space since 2016 and built another business serving musicians in a completely different niche. But I was in like early stages of building this business, probably making I was like $5,000, $10,000 a month or something. I had come from a world where I had a background as a director of sales and had, built multiple businesses. So I understood a lot about kind of the mechanics of building a business, but very much kind of old guard, super, intellectual in terms of the mindset and the approach. And I had gone through like a spiritual awakening. And I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I was kind of in this void where I wanted to scale and I had a big vision and I wanted to grow this business in a way that was different from a lot of what I think I'd been taught and what I understood. And I was exploring and seeking out, ideas and mentorship and strategies from honestly just from people who had a level of depth of understanding of the consciousness side of things, so that I could do this in a way that felt aligned, intentional, heart-centered, that would also just work. That was where I was. I think I bought a workshop from Scott. It was I think it was the Harmony Triangle. It was some $47 thing or something. And I remember I watched this workshop and I turned to my partner. I was like, this is no one's talking about this. No one is just Scott's level of mastery on the business side of things, but also the alignment piece, the consciousness piece, the level of depth on that side of things, and merging those two things together. I was I don't think I've ever encountered anyone who plays in that space. And that was super attractive to me. And then I think I bought his 5-day marketing workshop, and I was like, dude, this guy really knows what he's doing with marketing. And I was like, oh shit, I need to work with this guy. And so that was it was a little over 2 years ago. So much has happened in the 2 years that I've been working with Scott. And the backstory up until that point is that when I first met Scott, I was making $5 to 10 grand a month in this business coaching business. And through working with Scott, through, I think it was a VIP program initially, and then one-to-one, and all that work that we did together, was able to scale my business from 10K a month to 60K a month. That was average. I think I hit my first 100K a month in January of, I think it was 2020, maybe it was this year. I honestly don't remember. It's been such a whirlwind, but it was 100K a month, 60K a month, kind of 60K on average. So it was massive growth, and this was in the course of maybe a little over a year. At the same time, very much still kind of with a lot of intellect, and part of it was just that's how the world that I came from was it was very structured, and everything was strategized, and it was and Scott's business strategies really helped, with that piece. And so I was running the business in a massive scale in a very short period of time, and making more money than I'd ever made in my life, which was fucking awesome. And also kind of hit a plateau around that point. And I was like, okay, I was kind of hanging out at this 60K a month level for a while, very much in the intellect and the strategies, and things were for very much me kind of driving the bus. And so 4 months ago, I came out here and he did his Levels of Consciousness event with Fred Dodson, and I had a one-on-one with him off the back of that. And the best way I can describe it, it was like a psychedelic trip. It literally felt like my ego just got blasted out. I remember having a conversation with my partner, after that, I was like, everything in our life is gonna change. Because being in Scott's presence and around his energy and seeing how he operated and seeing the level of just flow and intuition and realizing he was leading from a completely different place. not from intellect, but very much from intuition, gave me like a massive permission slip in my business, and just felt like it broke open that part of me that was like just operating from my head. And so since then, literally everything has changed. It was 4 months ago, and we moved into like a brand new home, like our dream house in Boulder, Colorado, like a multi-million-dollar home, this beautiful space. I just hit our highest sales month ever in the business. It was like over $130,000 in sales. It felt like super easy too. It was just like, I've never had more fun in my business and had more ease, and also just have been making a lot of money. And like just having a really good time doing it. Honestly, that was a direct result of that experience of coming here 4 months ago and having, just the experience of being at the retreat, and also having that one-on-one off the back end with Scott. His energy, his being, in addition to like just the grounded strategy of like what he teaches, and being able to kind of merge those two things together, has changed every aspect of my life. And when I look at who I was 2.5 years ago when we first met versus where I am today, I'm literally a different person. And so everything in my life has gotten immeasurably better. And the level of impact that I have today as a result of that, the people that I get to serve, and that like the money's amazing, and being able to wake up every day and just be surrounded by these people that I'm like, I can't even believe I get to work with you. Like, I ran my first retreat about a month ago, and it was just like this life-changing experience for these people. And just to get to do this work, and to be scaling a business that we'll hit 7 figures in the next probably 6 months. We're already there basically, and the fact that it's felt so at this point so aligned and so fun and so easy. Not to say that there aren't challenges and aren't hard moments and difficulties, but there's so many things that have been unlocked as a result of being in Scott's energy, his presence, and just being around him. And I'm just super grateful, genuinely. And I've worked with lots of different people, but when I meet somebody who I feel like I can really go deep with, I like to stick around. And yeah, Scott's been that mentor for me. I have no doubt that we'll continue to work together for the next decade plus, and who knows what's gonna happen as a result. But there have been very few people that I've met in my life who I truly feel know their stuff and also just really care. And Scott, has definitely been that for me. So before the last retreat, the retreat that I just told you was, literally changed my life, I was having a text message conversation with Scott, and he pitched me. He was like, dude, you should come to this thing. And I was having it was a difficult month in my business that month. It was a low month, or we were navigating some changes. And I was feeling I was kind of in scarcity in that moment. And I was like, he sent me this thing, and I was like, I don't have the cash flow right now. Maybe I'll, next time or whatever. And this is, when we were working together one-to-one. And I really trust Scott. One thing I really appreciate about Scott is that his energy is never about pushing me into anything that's not, truly right for me. I feel his heart behind when he sells. And so he told me something. He's like, dude, totally cool, whatever you want to do. And just a piece of advice, when you get in scarcity and you start making decisions from scarcity, scarcity begets more scarcity. And so the fastest way to get yourself in a rut in business is you start you feel tight, and then you're like, I can't spend money, I need to tighten up. And then you start getting in this scarce mode with the decisions. And that's what tanks the business. And I've seen this happen many times in my own business, as well as so many of the clients that I work with. And so he's like, dude, you should come to the retreat. And I was like, I know you're right. I know you're right. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And it ended up being probably one of the best decisions I've ever made in my business, and because that really unlocked things for me. And so what I would say is like, have I felt scarcity? Have I felt fear? I've invested, at this point, I've probably invested, like, in working with Scott, like 150 grand. And like, it's been the best investment I've ever made in my life. Every moment of those like choice points, there's always that part of me that feels fear and feels scared and is like, that's dumb. Like, why am I paying all this money? Like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And then there's a part of me that's like, yeah, man, let's do it. Like, I want to expand. Like, I have this like intuitive feeling that like, this is the right next step for me. And every time that I've leaned into that, and every time that I've trusted that, like what I know that I'm being called to do, so much more of everything that I've wanted has been on the other side. So if I was speaking to someone who was watching this video who, is maybe thinking about working, maybe you're thinking about working with Scott, and you feel like it's a lot of money, you feel whatever the story is, I would encourage you to like trust yourself, whatever that thing is, that you know in your heart that you need to. And sometimes the knowing is like, don't do it. And if that's what your gut is telling you to do, then don't. But if you know in your heart that that's the right thing to do, and maybe you got the voices of fear, I've been there, I have experienced those things too. And just continuing to take those leaps into faith, into trust, into trusting myself and my own capacity to grow has created a life that I could never have possibly imagined. And I feel like I'm only getting started. So that would be what I would say on that point. I would just say, like, I'm genuinely grateful for Scott and for what he is, like the person that he is and how he's impacted my life. And so thank you, Scott, for the incredible work that you do.